Hey, and welcome back to another episode here on Vibrant You. Today we are talking about something so important for all of my fellow type A female entrepreneurs and professionals out there that are really wanting to stay at your best when it comes to your health so that you can show up in your business with more inspiration, more focus, peak performance, more energy, which really is the very lifeblood of your business and your success. So I'm going to be sharing with you some holistic strategies for preventing and recovering from burnout. I'm going to share with you my own personal experience with burnout and how it happened for me back in 2020, how I recovered from it, and how I'm personally taking these steps that I'm going to share with you here today to avoid mental and physical overload happening again and leading to burnout, as of course I manage all the ins and outs of my own business and launches and content creation and admin and team management and serving clients. I mean, it can be a lot. So I'm going to share with you what burnout actually means, which is so much more than just a buzzword for I'm tired. I'm going to share there's 10 main signs or symptoms of burnout and how to know if you're experiencing a level of burnout. There's 4 different stages of adrenal fatigue and a bit of a self-assessment that you can do to see what stage you may be in if you're noticing yourself more tired or fatigued, to see if there may be a level of burnout going on. And then of course I'll share with you some holistic strategies for preventing that and staying at your best, your peak performance in your work and your business, as well as some tips for recovering from burnout if you are experiencing a level of that in your own body right now. And then of course we'll get into some just practical work and business life hacks for type A professionals and entrepreneurs just like you, so that you can really take care of yourself and show up as your best in your work and your business and really share your mission, share the work and the passion and the purpose that you are meant to share with the world. So the reason why I'm recording this episode is, of course, like most episodes, because it's a bit of where I'm at the moment. So as always, pretty much every episode that I record on here is really from my own lived experience and what I'm needing to remind myself of, or what I'm working on within myself at the moment, whether it comes to my health or my mindset or the well-being of my relationships and so on. So I'll be fully transparent that I have gone through a bit more stress, significantly a bit more stress than usual over the last few weeks. And there's nothing really massive or dramatic that happened other than just the buildup, right, of work-related tasks and some new collaborations coming in, turning the podcast into a more interview-based podcast and starting to interview guests, which, is really exciting. But there's just been a lot more than usual on my plate, and I've been feeling the effects of it. And I must say that I've had some sensations in my body over the last couple weeks that felt familiar to a few years ago when I was in proper burnout, proper exhaustion, proper, couldn't get out of bed in the morning. And I just never want to go there again. So I'll share with you a bit of my story of what I went through, I guess a few years ago now, 2020. Anyone else think that's so weird that 2020 was now like 3 years ago? Almost 4 years ago. I'm just mind blown by that. But like so many people out there, back in 2020, I went through my own process, my own initiation of course, so much change, so much transition so rapidly. And just with the pandemic and having gone from managing and teaching and working with an amazing wellness retreat center here in Bali, Indonesia, to basically taking my practice fully virtually, right? And going from a very in-person business model to a way of serving people and supporting their wellness that was fully virtual, and going fully on my own after having worked in collaboration with Yoga and Meditation Center here in Bali. So there's just like a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of unknown with this whole global pandemic. Nobody knew what was up. No one knew how to respond. It was so isolating, just like a bit of a pressure cooker to be taking care of all this. And just with that insane increase of mental, emotional, life structural stress going on inside of my life, my body went through so many different, a sequence of events that happened to my adrenal glands, which is basically our primary source of regulating stress hormones in the body. And my body went through all these different layers of experience where first I felt like superwoman. I felt like I could do anything. I had insane amounts of energy. I feel like I could just go from 6 in the morning until 11 p.m. a.m. and just, I had an insane superwoman energy, which I'll share with you what that means on a lab test in terms of our stress hormones, in terms of what phase of burnout or towards burnout that really is. After a couple months of superwoman vibes, of feeling like I could do anything and just go, go, go and busy and all in and hustle, I hit burnout. And burnout is not a fun place to be. The level of exhaustion that I felt, I couldn't get out of bed. My mood was so low. I was in an insane depression. My immune system got so weakened that I experienced something called mold toxicity, which is mold, spores. You've obviously seen mold before. But when we have mold inside of our environments and we're breathing that in, and when we have a more suppressed immune system from adrenal fatigue, from, our body's reserve saying, I can't do this pace anymore, it weakens our immune system. And I was susceptible then to experiencing mold toxicity. So from that, I was experiencing, I'll see if I can share a picture with you guys on my Instagram, because it is not a pretty picture, but I took a picture. I looked in the mirror one morning and I couldn't recognize my face. Literally, my face was double in size. It was so swollen, so puffy. My eyes were swollen shut. There was like the darkest black circles under my eyes. It looks like I've just been punched in the face. And I was so scared. Looking back in the mirror, I'm like, what has happened to me? And this is mold toxicity. I had such severe allergies, debilitating allergies that a Benadryl could not even touch. This went on for months before I really figured out what it was, and I was able to address it. So I'm going to share with you exactly what I did to recover from burnout. I'm sure that most of you are not in that level of burnout and extreme adrenal fatigue as I was. However, I'm going to share with you what that could look like in those earlier stages of how to prevent getting to that stage. The worst thing for business is you being burnt out and unable to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, over those 5 months, of me being so unwell, I really took like 5 months basically off of my business, where I was really only able to do the very bare minimum. I needed to focus so much on my health and wellness to recover. And of course, my business and my finances and my inspiration and creativity plummeted with my health going down the drain as well. So let's get right into it. Let's understand first, what actually is burnout? So burnout is not just a fancy buzzword that means I'm tired. I was in proper state of burnout, and I have the lab tests to prove it. So of course, work gets busy, life gets busy. It's so easy to just get run down or forget to take care of ourselves when we go through stressful periods, whether that's emotional stress or stress in our relationships or financial stress, work stress, as well as physical stress, right? If you're working your butt off at the gym and pushing yourself too hard, that can lead to burnout on a physiological level. It's not emotional stress causing burnout, not mental overload, but physical overload, as well as things like pathogens. If you have a gut-based pathogen, you have parasites, or you have something like what I had, mold toxicity, or you have a chronic underlying health condition or virus or something, your body's going to be in a constant state of fight or flight. Emotionally, you might feel fine. You might say, I don't really have that much stress. I don't think that I would be burnt out. But your body has been in a state of fight or flight for so long. Your nervous system can't interpret the difference between a physical stressor and an emotional one. Our nervous system thinks it's the same and will still put our adrenal glands into that state of exhaustion, therefore leading to that burnout. So let's understand what all of this means. Let's tie it all together. So our adrenal glands are these little hormone producing glands that sit on top of our kidneys, and those are really responsible for releasing and regulating our stress-based hormones. One of the main stress hormones we have is called cortisol, which basically helps us respond to stress. So having that balanced stress response and a healthy cortisol rhythm, so the rhythm of which, we have higher levels of cortisol when we go through a stressor, and then our body's ability to adapt and bring that stress hormone down, bring our body back to balance in non-stressful moments. This is really essential for having a balanced body and nervous system and stress hormones and brain. So what happens though is when we go through periods of prolonged stress, right? And again, that can be mental emotional stress. That can be physical stress with less than an ideal diet, nutritional deficiencies, that causes stress on the body, increased toxic load, right? All of the toxin exposure that we experience on a day-to-day basis, a buildup of pathogens in the body, viruses, hormonal imbalances, bacterial overgrowth, as well as lifestyle factors like alcohol or smoking or just overworking. All of of those things. When we do go through those levels of stress, our adrenal glands can easily go from a state of balance to a state of burnout. So let's explore what that actually means. There are 4 main stages of adrenal fatigue. And in each stage, our hormones, as well as our feel-good brain chemicals, our neurotransmitters, all drastically fluctuate. So let's get a little bit deeper into the 4 stages of adrenal fatigue. And as we go through, I invite you to just listen to the symptom picture of these 4 stages of adrenal fatigue and see what sounds most familiar, right? Maybe you're in a healthy cortisol rhythm. So that's great. Use these tips I'm going to share with you to really maintain your adrenal health and prevent, burnout from busy lifestyle and work and whatnot. So, okay, the first stage of adrenal fatigue is actually just healthy adrenals. It's a balanced stress response and normal cortisol, right? Cortisol is that stress hormone. So in a healthy person, our cortisol levels, our stress hormones, should actually be highest in the morning and lowest at night. So having higher stress chemicals in the morning is actually not a bad thing. You may be thinking, I know this confused me for a while, why would I want high stress hormones at any point in the day? Don't I want my stress hormones to be really low? Well, if you've ever been in a state of burnout, which I have, I can tell you for a fact, you do not want depleted levels of stress hormone. We need that stress hormone to be flexible. We need to have higher levels in the morning because cortisol sure helps us to respond to stress, but it also gives us energy. That's the hormone that makes us have this get up and go feeling. It gives us motivation. It gives us zest for life. It gives us passion. It gives us drive. And when we don't have adequate amounts of cortisol, this stress hormone, we feel fatigue. So this healthy cortisol rhythm, cortisol, stress hormone, should be highest in the morning, lowest at night. In this healthy cortisol rhythm, our hormones and our neurotransmitters, our brain chemistry, is overall balanced. We tend to wake up in the early morning, experience our highest energy and motivation and focus in those early morning hours, and then naturally our energy levels naturally wane throughout the day with our lowest energy before bed with no major highs or lows. So our body will naturally wind down and is generally tired by bedtime, and it's pretty easy to fall asleep and to wake up the next day feeling refreshed. So that's healthy, right? That's our balanced cortisol rhythm. We like that. Okay, stage 2 of adrenal fatigue. We're on our way to burnout. Is what we call the wired stage. So also known as the alarm stage of stress. Now in this stage, this is high cortisol. And I actually lab test this with my clients. This is the exact lab test that I did back in 2020 when I was next level fatigue and I was like, what is going on? I had never experienced this before. This is what we lab tested for. We did a saliva-based test and I tested my waking cortisol, so how much cortisol was in my system upon waking, and then I tested 3 more times throughout the day so I could really see that cortisol rhythm and where my cortisol levels were throughout the day. Now, I didn't test at this stage because generally in the wired stage, we feel pretty good overall, right? There's no major things that we would consider wrong, but this wired state over a period of time is a recipe for burnout. So in this wired stage, we have what we see on a lab test, we have high all day cortisol levels. So that cortisol, that stress hormone, is just high all day long. It doesn't go down at night like it should. And in this stage, we might feel like we are invincible. So when I shared with you, in the beginning stages of the pandemic, when I was, remodeling my entire business, dealing with the global pandemic, the first few months I felt on top of the world. I was like, wow, so many great changes. This is an opportunity. How do I want to make the most of this? And I had superwoman energy and vitality. I was like, I was working from 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. at night. I was just go, go, go. I was on fire and I felt amazing. There was actually I felt really good in this stage. Not healthy, hard to sleep at night, but I felt, wired. So in this phase, we can feel like superwoman with invincible energy. You may feel like you can run on very little sleep, little to no sleep. Someone in this wired stage is the kind of person that says, I really only need, 4, 5, maybe 6 hours of sleep a night. That's wired. That's a hormonal imbalance. Somebody that can get by, quote unquote, on 4 hours of sleep a night is not in a healthy cortisol rhythm. They're in this wired stage, and it is a recipe for burnout. Give it a few months in this energy, and definitely there's going to be a crash. So in this stage, because that cortisol doesn't come down at night, you may have terrible insomnia and really irregular sleep patterns. Naturally, you're going to feel more anxious and more restless, more quote unquote wired. You feel more jittery, more nervous. And in this phase, our neurotransmitters in our brain, our serotonin, our dopamine, our happiness and motivation chemicals are generally really high. So that's why I felt good. I felt invincible. I felt motivated, on top of the world. But when something's, it's a pendulum. When we have high for too long, it has to crash. So often in this stage, things like gut issues, hormonal imbalances, they start here in this phase, but they generally don't show up on lab tests yet. So this is why at this stage, most people don't test. Mostly, once we get to the third or the fourth stage of adrenal fatigue, that's when people come to me because they really start to feel a problem. But this is where it begins, is with that wired high cortisol, that alarm stage. Okay, stage number 3 towards adrenal fatigue is what we call tired and wired. So this is the resistance stage of stress, or what we call an inverse cortisol pattern. Instead of having that nice high cortisol in the morning and low cortisol at night, our pattern reverses. So a person in this tired and wired stage, they actually have low cortisol in the morning, and their cortisol actually increases throughout the day and is highest in the evening. So this kind of person, it feels really difficult to get up in the morning. You wake up, you don't feel refreshed, you feel tired. It takes you a long time to wake up. Then in the afternoon, in the evening, and definitely before bed, that's when your energy levels pick up. So someone that identifies as a night owl is likely to be experiencing some level of resistant stage of stress, this tired and wired stage. You struggle to fall asleep no matter how tired you are. You often wake up in the night, you toss and you turn. You feel tired all day, but wired at night. You may develop a more unhealthy dependence on caffeine. You may go through periods of feeling extreme brain fog, especially during the day. Your sex and your thyroid hormones start to go imbalanced, and at this point, it can start to show up on a lab test. Now, at this stage, you still function properly in your daily life, but you've begun to lose your zest for life. Your usual motivation and focus and performance start to decline. But it's not bad enough yet that, you say something's been going on. I don't know what, I just feel so tired all the time. What's going on? That's tired and wired phase. So this stage, we really need to address it. If you're not in proper burnout yet, but some of these signs and symptoms resonated with you, definitely we want to be maybe testing your adrenals and seeing where your cortisol levels are at to confirm if you are having this more resistance inverse cortisol stage, and really starting to address it with a proper adrenal fatigue protocol. So certain nutrition and herbs and adaptogens and nutraceuticals, self-care practices, reestablishing work-life balance to really start to rejuvenate those adrenal glands that are starting to show signs of fatigue. Okay, so phase 4 is formal burnout. So this is the exhaustion stage of stress. So in this stage, our body went from being on cortisol high to that inverse, that, opposite ratio of cortisol, to now our body's just tired. It's exhausted. It's saying, okay, I tried for so long to tell you to slow down, woman, and you didn't listen. And so now I'm going to make you slow down because I'm going to stop producing cortisol. And when we have these all day, every day, low levels of cortisol, we have no motivation. We have no focus. We have next level brain fog. So what happens is when we have these lower levels of cortisol, our happiness and motivation chemicals in our brain, our serotonin and dopamine, is on low. It's depleted. We feel depressed, right? We went from feeling anxious and the tired and wide stage to now you're just depressed, right? All of the body systems are now depleted. All of our immune system is shut down. We have this unshakable brain fog and fatigue. We feel exhausted all the time. No matter how much you sleep, you're still exhausted the next day. We have heightened levels of maybe anxiety initially that turns into depression, lower levels of mood, irritability. We feel more susceptible to acute and chronic infections. So you seem to be just picking up every little cold and flu that goes around. All of our other hormones get shut down. So this is where we would lab test and we see all of these brand new sex hormone imbalances and, female sex imbalances. You're having PMS, you're missing your periods, you have irregular periods, or you're having issues with your thyroid. So you get your, annual blood work done and they say, oh, you have a thyroid imbalance, you have hypothyroidism. Well, what caused that hypothyroidism? Was it your adrenal glands being burnt out that didn't allow your thyroid to function properly? Because our cortisol levels influence all the other hormones in our body. And when our cortisol goes off, every other hormonal system goes off. A lot of hormone-based imbalances, whether it's sex hormone imbalances or thyroid hormone imbalances, often root from this cortisol, this stress hormone imbalance. Burnout feels like a proper rock bottom with our physical and mental health. No amount of coffee or naps or sleep is enough to bring your energy levels back. And at this stage, we really need a long-term, in-depth protocol to restore that adrenal function. So that becomes really important at this phase. So those are the 4 stages of adrenal fatigue. Let's go over now some of the most common signs and symptoms of those different levels of adrenal fatigue. So here's a bit of a self-assessment. I'm sure you're able to pick up on some clues from those 4 phases of adrenal fatigue to see where you may be. But let's go through a little self-assessment here. We're going to go through the top 10 symptoms of adrenal fatigue. And I invite you, as we go through each one, just give yourself a little mental score of whether you experience this or not. So I want you to add up how many of these symptoms you feel at least once a week. Okay, so if you're experiencing any of these symptoms at least once a week, give yourself a point. And the closer you are to 10, right, the more of these symptoms that you have, the more likely you are to be experiencing some level of adrenal fatigue, and you'll want to take care of that. So symptom number 1 is chronic fatigue. So if you are experiencing that more persistent and unexplained fatigue, that unshakable fatigue, give yourself a point. Individuals with this adrenal fatigue often feel more tired in the morning. You're experiencing that energy slump in the afternoon, chronic fatigue. Symptom number 2 is brain fog. So if you're noticing moments of being unable to focus, you can't think straight, you have more cloudy thinking, you're forgetting more things, big sign of burnout. Number 3 is anxiety, which long-term leads to depression, right? So are you feeling more overwhelmed, more anxious, more stressed, or just lower levels of mood? That's another key symptom. Okay, symptom number 4 is difficulty sleeping. Are you feeling a level of insomnia? Is it hard for you to fall asleep? Is it hard for you to stay asleep? Are you waking up the next day not feeling refreshed from your sleep? Give yourself a point. Are you experiencing symptom number 5, difficulty handling stress? So adrenal fatigue is often linked to we are unable to cope with the stresses that come our way as effectively, both physically and mentally. We feel easily overwhelmed. We feel easily triggered. This is a big sign of adrenal fatigue. Symptom number 6, are you having more cravings for things like salty foods or sweet and sugary foods? So adrenal fatigue, because of the mineral status, the sodium balance that goes imbalanced with adrenal fatigue, we may crave more salty foods. Another way is that because we're always tired all the time, we may crave more sugary foods as a way to artificially boost our energy because our adrenals aren't doing it for us. Symptom number 7, are you experiencing more muscle weakness than usual? So feeling a heaviness in your muscles is another big sign associated with adrenal fatigue. Are you feeling not as strong as you used to be in the gym that you used to? Every little physical activity just seems to exhaust you, or you do go to the gym and it takes you days to recover. Your recovery time is reduced. Number 8, lowered immunity. Are you feeling more frequent colds and flus? Every little bug that goes around, you seem to catch it, and it seems to take you a little bit longer than usual, or longer than the people around you to really recover from those bugs that goes around, right? Symptom number 9 is headaches or migraines. So are you noticing more tension headaches or migraines throughout the day? This can definitely be a sign of adrenal fatigue. And then finally, I would say lower levels of mood. So lower levels of mood throughout the day, mood swings, or you're just moving towards feeling a little bit more on the depressed side. This would be another sign. Okay, so there is a massive mind-body connection here. So I'd love for you to just kind of feel into and assess, is adrenal fatigue a thing for you? Are you experiencing a level of that? If you're not, great. If you only had like 1 or 2 points in there and it's not very often, great, you're on a great track. All the tips that I'm going to share with you shortly are going to be to maintain that, right? And to prevent burnout is going to be really great. If you are experiencing something like that, try to explore all these tips I'm about to share with you, and you may consider working with a practitioner to really rebalance those adrenal glands at a deeper level, because it does require, all these general principles are going to be great, but it does, I share from experience and having worked with clients in levels of burnout for years now, that it does take a bit more in-depth protocol to really rebalance those adrenal glands after, a period of adrenal fatigue. Okay, so let's get into the fun stuff. Let's talk about what are the holistic strategies for preventing or recovering from burnout. So first and foremost is sleep and rest. Sleep and rest is one of the best things that you can do to recover your adrenal glands. If you're not sleeping enough, your adrenal glands don't have a chance to fully recover and rebalance that natural and healthy cortisol rhythm. So I recently got my Aura ring. My mom has just arrived in Bali and she was able to bring it over here for me. So I've actually been learning a lot on that. I've been tracking my sleep. I've been reading my readiness score every day. And it's been really great for me to see the data on how well my body's recovering. Which days is maybe more helpful for me to push myself a little harder at the gym, and which days are maybe better for rest. So I do recommend some sort of bio-tracking tool like an Aura ring to really track your sleep, track your heart rate variability, track your overall heart rate, these types of things to really help you in those areas of sleep and rest. Okay, holistic strategy number 2 is really important when we're working with our adrenals and maintaining them, is we've got to make sure that we have balanced blood sugar, right? So when we are on the blood sugar roller coaster, meaning we're eating naked carbs, as in we're just eating straight carbs, we're eating a bag of chips, or we're eating fruit on its own, or we're eating a really high carbohydrate granola bar, even though it sounds healthy, it's just full of sugar, very low in protein and fat, which is needed to slow that glucose absorption. So really managing our blood sugar is essential to get off of this blood sugar roller coaster that really depletes our adrenal glands. So a good little nutrition hack for you is always combine carbohydrates that you eat always with protein, fat, fiber. So if you are having some chocolate, right, can't totally recommend it. It's a high sugar food, but always eating it with protein, fat, and fiber so that that glucose doesn't hit your bloodstream and, mess up your adrenal glands. It slows the absorption of that glucose. Going for a walk after meals help to manage blood sugar levels. Eating regular meals, not fasting upon waking. If you are experiencing burnout, ladies, no fasting in the morning for sure. If you are feeling lower levels of energy, hormonal imbalance, you want to be eating within the first 1 hour after waking. So no intermittent fasting, no long-term, without eating, because it's going to put you on that blood sugar roller coaster. It's going to, spike those cortisol levels, or it's going to put those cortisol levels into depletion, depending which stage of adrenal fatigue you're in. So no fasting, ladies, if you are experiencing any hormonal imbalance, especially any level of burnout. Okay, next holistic hack for you is watch your caffeine usage. So it's so natural when we go from that nice healthy cortisol rhythm into feeling more wired or feeling tired and wired, or especially in burnout. Of course, we're going to be reaching for the coffee and the caffeine because we're tired all the time. However, that is exacerbating the issue. So if you are wanting that, I'd recommend, go for decaf and start to support your body with adaptogens. We'll talk about those in a sec. Go for decaf. If you are having caffeine, which I can't recommend, but if you're going to do it anyway, it's too hard to let go of. Make sure that you're always drinking your coffee with food. So you're having it with breakfast, right? Not on an empty stomach. You're always having it with protein, fat, fiber so that the caffeine doesn't hit your system and shock your adrenal glands with caffeine. And you always want to have it within the first half of the day. So definitely no coffee, ideally after 12, but certainly not after 2 p.m. because it's going to affect that cortisol rhythm in the evening, make it hard to sleep at night. So that's really important. Okay, adaptogens is the next holistic strategy. So adaptogens are certain foods and herbs and roots and substances from the plant kingdom that really help us adapt to stress. That's what adaptogen means. It supports how our body and mind adapts to stressors, mental stressors, physical stressors, and so on. So they really build our body's stress resilience to respond to stress and boost your adrenal glands. So some of my favorites that I have recently started incorporating, because I'm also like, wait, the sensations I'm feeling, these feel familiar to burnout. Let's not go there. I'm like, okay, let's get on top of this early. I'm a little bit in that wired stage right now. I don't want to lead to burnout ever again. So I'm bringing in things like maca root, which is a Peruvian root crop. It works on the pituitary gland. It's excellent for regulating the adrenals. Ashwagandha root, which is a very commonly used Ayurvedic root that supports the adrenal glands, really helps our body to adapt to stress. I really love lemon balm. This is a beautiful plant. Maybe you grow some in your garden. Maybe it grows wild in your area. Otherwise, we can get it in supplements as well. And I will link up in the show notes some of the top recommended supplements that I recommend for adrenal health and adrenal support. So if you are going through, higher levels of stress, even temporarily, I won't be on these supplements forever. I'm on them right now because I'm going through a higher levels of stress. There's great things happening in my life, but it is consuming more of my energy than usual. And I want to make sure that I'm supporting my body with those higher levels of stress and just demand on my energy. So lemon balm is excellent. Holy basil is another excellent adaptogen. It's so rejuvenative, has such a beautiful energy, boosts our energy levels, and really boosts our immune system as well. So those are some adaptogens, and I'll link up some supplements that are really great that you can look into as as well. Okay, and then we need to work on the nervous system. So this is a big piece. So supporting our nervous system is essential for recovering from burnout and preventing it altogether. So what I want you to create as your personal goal when it comes to managing your stress and supporting your beautiful little adrenals and their hormones is I want you to make the personal goal for yourself of spending at least 15 minutes a day in what we call a parasympathetic state. So the parasympathetic state is simply a fancy way of saying a deeply relaxed state, right? So how do you know you're in a deeply relaxed state? Think of when you're at the end of a yoga class and you're in that beautiful shavasana. You lie down on your back at the end of a beautiful, juicy yoga practice and you lay down for 5 to 15 minutes, however long the teacher keeps you there, and you really drop into that deep state of ease and relaxation. You're not necessarily asleep, but you're deeply relaxed. That is the parasympathetic nervous system state. A state that when you run yourself an Epsom salt bath and you lay in the warm, cozy bathtub, you light yourself a candle, beeswax, toxic-free candle, and you don't have your phone, you don't have Netflix, you're just in there, maybe reading a book or just kind of, closing your eyes, breathing deeply. That is a parasympathetic state. So to rejuvenate our adrenals, we need minimum 15 minutes a day hanging out in that juicy, restorative, rejuvenative parasympathetic state. Okay, so choose your weapon. Right now I'm working with sauna. That's one of the best things. I go lay in the sauna for 20, 30 minutes every day, minimum 15 minutes. Go lay down in the sauna and I just lay on my back in there, feel the warmth, I sweat, and I just breathe. I don't overdo it. Like my body's never in a stress response. I mean, when it comes to cold plunge and sauna, you can definitely further exacerbate burnout if you're putting your body into really stressful situations, shocking situations. So I actually don't recommend cold plunges if you're in burnout because it's just going to shock your adrenals more. But relaxing sauna in moderation, great. I love Epsom salt baths. I'm doing a lot of those right now. The magnesium sulfate is excellent for the parasympathetic nervous system. Just relaxing, that warmth is really excellent. If you like sound therapy or sound healing, light therapy, red light therapy, breath work, yoga, gentle walks in nature, all of those can be really excellent. So these are some of the holistic strategies for preventing and recovering from burnout. Let's get into some practical things. So some practical work and business hacks for type A professionals and entrepreneurs like yourself. So one of the little life hacks that I've done, or business hacks, is I've really worked hard to close a lot of what I call my vitality leaks. So vitality leaks are the things in your life and business that subtly drain your energy. So that can be too many cups of coffee or too many cups of matcha in a day. A vitality leak can be lacking boundaries with clients. Are you saying that your, text and audio boundaries is this and you're not honoring that? You're crossing your own boundaries. Clients are crossing your boundaries. Are you working on weekends? Are you in a state of perfectionism or overworking? When we start to become aware of what those vitality leaks are and we can start to seal those leaks, we start to close the gap between where we're at and where we desire to be in our business as well as in our wellness. Of course, we also need to set realistic expectations on ourselves, on our productivity, on the amount of time that we're going to be working, on the time that it needs to complete projects, right? All of these are so important. Realistic expectations and realistic boundaries, right? Boundaries are the bomb, you guys. Boundaries are so important when it comes to maintaining our wellness. Boundaries protect us, right? And they allow us to stay balanced, stay vital so that we can show up in our professional life, our personal life with more balance. So the next one is setting up intentional business wellness strategies. So this has been so huge for me. Remember that you don't work for your business. You make your business work for you. So maintaining that, work-life balance is so important. I know for me, when I was in that wired stage, I was working 7 days a week, right? I was going from 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. turned on. I was on my phone, I was on Instagram, I was posting, I was replying to, DMs, replying to email, replying to clients' questions, at 11 p.m. And it did not serve me. So remember, we get to design our business in a way that supports our wellness, not depletes our wellness. That's why you're a business owner. You want the freedom to create life in an intentional way. You desire more time freedom. You desire location freedom. You desire, the capacity to not have a glass ceiling on what you're able to share with the world, your purpose, your impact, your mission, your income, all of that. That's why you got into this work to begin with, right? So for me, that has been a non-negotiable, evenings and weekends off. These are intentional, just business practices. And my clients all know that I I am available for questions and I will reply to them Monday to Friday between this time and this time, right? I have very strict tech boundaries for myself on how available I am. And that protects my energy, protects my wellness so that I can show up for my clients in the best possible way. So, do you desire a week off every month? That's something that I've incorporated is I only take clients 3 weeks out of the month, and 1 week I take off of clients, and I dedicate that week to my wellness, to my well-being. You could set up the intentional business strategy to not do sales calls anymore. Set up systems and strategies in your business that you don't have to do sales calls. You do things only by DM on Instagram, or you have an application form, or you hire someone else to do, sales calls for you. Do you want less time in your Zoom calls? Are you finding yourself exhausted at the end of the day in 7 different Zoom calls that day? So all of this is to say, how do you negotiate your schedule and your business structures to really strategically free up your time and make space in your life for more wellness, more ease, more freedom, of course, without compromising your client experience or your sales? So that's what intentional business wellness strategies is really all about. And then final little business and professional little work hack is to get support. So hire a team. This has been non-negotiable. This has been an essential pillar in my business, and of course my wellness as a business owner has been to delegate tasks. Those energy leaks, I was like, I do not love doing my accounting. I do not love doing the, client onboarding process and sending these emails and sending invoices and tracking client payments and following up with clients on payments. I'm like, I want to be the practitioner. I want to be the one working with clients. I want to, really be in my zone of genius of what really lights me up in my work, the conversations I get to have, the amazing women that I get to work with and hang out with in my work, the reading of labs and helping people create wellness protocols for people, for my clients, to really allow them to transform their health and well-being. So get support, whether that's, your own team, to delegate tasks, take more off of your plate, pass it on to other people, free up your time, free up your energy for more health and well-being, as well as hire support when it comes to your health. When I was experiencing that burnout and fatigue, I'm a health practitioner. I know how to read my labs. I know the health protocols. I still got support because I knew that what I'm able to see within myself, there's gaps. And I just wanted to be held. It was such a hard time. And I was like, I just wanted that support. I knew that I could do it all on my own, but I didn't want to. I didn't have to. And so I allowed myself to receive that support. So if you are looking to, of course, accelerate that process and optimize your health and become that happiest, healthiest, most vibrant you and business owner that you desire to be, then it's a great opportunity to receive support. So all of that to share, I would love to invite you, if you are looking for support in optimizing your health, I'd love to invite you into my Optimize and Rise program, which is a beautiful luxury wellness portal for the empowered entrepreneurial woman or professionals such as yourself to optimize your health and really rise into the next evolution of you and your business. So it's a 4-month private luxury wellness portal to optimize your well-being over the next 4 months. You will, in this time, we're going to optimize your digestive health, your hormonal well-being, and really create that vibrant health so that you can unlock the deepest levels of energy and inspiration, vitality and productivity in your business to really help you make the impact and the income that you're destined to. So the women that come in to Optimize and Rise, for them, business is already flowing great. This is the good news. But they often have this hunch that business could just be so much better, and more importantly, feel so much better when they are feeling nourished and balanced and vibrant in their body, their mind, and their energy. And really, this frees you up. When your wellness is overflowing, when your cup is full, you just have that much more to give. You show up as your best. You attract these high caliber clients. You make the money and the impact that you desire to. Really having this clear and balanced physical channel of your physical body and your mind, of course, is not just luxuries that you can focus on later when you have more time. Really, your wellness, your physical, mental, energetic well-being is really the key to building this soul-led business that you run. So if that speaks to you, if you'd love to be just held and supported as you optimize your health, recover your energy, I'd love to support you in that. You can send me a DM on Instagram. My handle is @BindyStables, or visit my website, bindystables.com/optimize, and you can see all the details there. So I hope this was helpful, us going over all of the strategies to prevent and recover from burnout. I hope this was helpful. I would love to hear your top takeaways over on Instagram. Send me a DM, and please feel free, send this episode to anyone that you think that it could serve. If you have any fellow entrepreneurial goddess sisters in your life that, you're noticing are maybe working a little bit too hard, or they're feeling a little bit more tired, a little more burnt out in their business, please send this episode their way. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you back for another episode real soon. Take care.